The flesh hulk roared, stumbling over the debris of the bone wall. "Now, Elara," Cassian shouted. I didn't think. I lunged forward, slamming the glowing mote against his chest, right over his heart. "Not there," he gasped, grabbing my hand. "It needs a conduit, mouth to mouth, breath to breath. It's the only way to filter the intake." My eyes went wide. The monster was 10 feet away, raising a fist like a wrecking ball. Cassian didn't wait for my consent. He yanked me against him, one hand tangling in my hair, tilting my head back. He crushed his mouth down on mine. It wasn't a kiss, it was a collision. His lips were cold, but his mouth was hot. As I gasped in shock, the energy of the mote in my hand flared, traveling up my arm, through my chest, and out into him. It felt like swallowing a star. I moaned into his mouth, the sensation overwhelming, electric, intimate, and raw. I could feel his soul brushing against mine, vast and structured like a cathedral, starkly different from my messy, cluttered spirit. He drank the power from me, his tongue sweeping into my mouth, demanding everything I had. It lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. Cassian broke the kiss with a ragged inhale. His eyes were no longer gray, they were glowing with a terrifying white luminance. He spun around, his coat whipping the air. He didn't chant this time, he just thrust his hand forward. A beam of pure, blinding white light erupted from his palm, hitting the flesh hulk square in the chest. The monster didn't just die, it disintegrated. The necrotic flesh turned to ash instantly, blown backward by the force of the blast. Silence fell over the tunnel, save for our heavy breathing. Cassian slumped against the damp tunnel wall, sliding down until he hit the floor. The glow faded from his eyes, leaving him looking exhausted and pale. I stood there trembling, touching my lips. They felt swollen. My heart was doing gymnastics in my ribcage. "That," I whispered, "that was necessary," he croaked, though his voice lacked its usual bite. He looked up at me, and for the first time there was no disdain, only a darkened heat that made my knees weak. That was high-grade energy, pure. I haven't tasted anything like that in centuries. I sank down next to him, keeping a safe distance. "Don't get used to it, that was $40 worth of supplies." He let out a short, dry laugh. It transformed his face, making him look younger, less like a statue and more like a man. "You are absurd, Elara Vance." We sat in the dark for a long time. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a hyper-awareness of his body next to mine. The tunnel was cold, and instinctively we drifted closer. "Why do you do it?" he asked quietly. "Necromancy, it's a filthy art." I was lonely, I admitted, staring at the tracks. My parents died when I was young. I found a book, I thought. Maybe I could say goodbye properly. I never did manage that, but I found I could make these little lights. They made the empty house feel less empty. Cassian turned his head. His hand moved, covering mine where it rested on the concrete, his fingers laced with mine. The Order sees death as a disease to be managed. The Circle sees it as a weapon. You see it as comfort. Is that wrong? He squeezed my hand. It is dangerous, but perhaps not wrong. The atmosphere shifted. The threat of death had stripped away our defenses. I looked at him, really looked at him. The arrogance was a shield, just like my sarcasm. Underneath, he was just a man carrying the weight of 1,000 ghosts. He leaned in, his gaze dropping to my lips. The transfer, it wasn't completely efficient. I can still feel the static. "Is that a complaint, Justicar?" I whispered, my pulse spiking. "No," he murmured, closing the distance. "It's a craving." He kissed me again. This time it wasn't for survival. It was slow, deliberate, and devastatingly sensual. His hand moved to my waist, pulling me into his lap. I straddled him, the cold concrete forgotten. I could feel the hard ridge of his desire beneath me, and a different kind of magic began to pool in my belly. But before things could escalate, a chilling sound echoed through the tunnel. Not a roar this time. Applause, slow, sarcastic clapping. We broke apart. Standing at the end of the tunnel, illuminated by the fading service lights, were 5 figures in obsidian robes. The leader, a woman with a face tattooed in skeletal patterns, smiled. "How touching," she sneered. "The Justicar and the scavenger, Romeo and Juliet of the graveyard." Cassian tried to stand, but he stumbled. The blast had taken too much out of him. He was running on fumes. Give us the girl, the woman commanded, raising a jagged black staff, and we will let you die quickly, Blackwood. Cassian pushed me behind him, swaying on his feet, over my dead body. The woman grinned. That's the plan. She slammed her staff down. A wave of black force rippled through the air. It hit Cassian before he could raise a shield. He flew backward, slamming into the concrete wall with a sickening crunch. He slid down, motionless, blood trickling from his mouth. Cassian, I screamed. I scrambled to him. He was breathing but barely. His chest was caved in. Get the girl, the woman ordered. The figures began to advance. I looked at Cassian's broken body. Then I looked at my slow cooker. I had 2 motes left. You want a battery, I hissed, standing up and facing the black hats. I plunged my hands into the ceramic pot, grabbing both motes. They burned my skin, hot and angry. I'll give you a battery.
Want to keep the flame ignited without having to wait for the next part? You can find the full, tantalizing tale on our main page. See the link in the description.